So we're just gonna start. This is Jonathan.
Hello.
Oh my,
Welcome to my class, children.
you guys have seen that GIF of like what's the show? What's the show? I don't watch TV.
The Office? Is that The Office?
No, it's the dude on with the whiteboards. Oh, I'm gonna pull up the GIF. This is a great intro. All
Okay, you can pull it up.
right, you prepare with your whiteboard.
That's we're consummate professionals.
Genius madness. What do I look up to find this? Whiteboards. Whiteboard. Oh, what is that show?
Oh, by the way, I just want to say a very big thank you for doing that podcast with Pat Stedman.
Oh, did you-
Because of you, I didn't get to
What?
bed until like 5 a.m. Yeah, you did that podcast and you spent like almost an hour talking about the question of casual sex for women and like what the equivalent is for guys.
Oh my god, that was such a good conversation. Such a good conversation. What
It was, and because of you, I spent like 2 hours trying to map it out, and
rabbit hole? Another rabbit hole?
yes, because I realized that there's actually like 2 separate answers to that question, depending on where you want to go with it. So like the first half is like what you give up, which is in order to engage in casual sex, you have to give up your emotional vulnerability, at least in as far as you can connect it to the sex, because you can't be physically vulnerable and emotionally vulnerable at the same time, which I'm separating emotional vulnerability from experiencing emotional intensity. You can be completely emotional intense and like really be in the moment and really, really enjoy it, but that doesn't mean you're being emotionally vulnerable, right? It's 2 wholly separate things.
Right.
So
I would say the
in
former,
part, you and
using your emotions and being able to use them just on a basic level, but the second is actually connect on the like intimate level, which doesn't necessarily have to be tapped into.
yeah. So like
Get it,
Yeah.
Riff.
So like on the masculine, on the masculine side, it could be, one example would be like a guy who gets like, really, really, really angry and wants to like fight, and is like, come at me, bro. Oh, you're such a dickhead, whatever. He's not being emotionally vulnerable. He's being emotionally intense. Right. But he's not sitting there going like, when you said that thing, it really hurt because that it triggered my insecurities about like my father. And now I feel defensive about it. That's not happening. It's let's step outside and we can talk about it there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so the difference between emotional,
You because you said I look better in this dress and that dress is tighter and I feel like you made me fat. But really the issue is like I don't feel like you think I'm pretty anymore and like I miss you and you don't spend this time with me, blah blah blah.
right? Like, it's like, thinking about having your kids and I want to know that you're going to love me no matter how I look because I'm going to be so bloated. I'm going to feel so terrible. And now you're sitting here critiquing me just because I have a dress and I put on 5 pounds. How dare you?
You Lana Del Rey, right? Will you still what are you drinking? Is that an energy drink?
Okay. So
Oh god.
no, it's zero, zero sugar Dr. Pepper because I still like soda, but I'm trying not to, I'm trying to give myself non-sugary chemicals versus sugary chemicals.
Don't tell holistic Twitter, but I support that depending on where you are on your whatever your health goals are. Right? Like yeah,
Wherever you are in your health journey.
if you're a purist, then I'm supposed to tell you like that's artificially manufactured, blah blah blah. But if you're like the main goal is like let me lower my body fat percentage, then you should probably satisfy that craving so you can just have 0 calories, whatever.
Yeah.
Going all over the place already.
Okay. So
So
one of the cool jumping off points what, that we talked about that I mentioned are you okay? Are we okay?
I don't know.
Oh, by the way, whenever we're done recording, remind me, we gotta talk about sales because there was such a fun conversation that I had with Rogue about sales being like good sales actually being anti-manipulation. But we're gonna put that to the side. I'm gonna dangle that carrot in front of you and then be like over
Shout
here, just
out to
think about it for later.
I need to migrate to the new thing. You just reminded me. We're in sales. We met, okay, for the audience to have a little bit of structure. We met, Jonathan and I met in
Yes.
Rogue Wealth Sales Dojo, which might be renamed. And he's migrating and the community's growing, but that's where we met because he has a role play. I agree with it.
Okay, so let's go straight from sales to presence.
Be non-supportive. Is it sauce?
It says uploading right now.
No, why does
It says recording.
I'm not talking about this recording. How you just said how you just said that we have to talk about the sales thing later. So we can stay on track with the feminine masculine thing?
Yes. Yeah, it's a tactic called open loops. Hello, get with the program.
Okay. Hey, that's like manipulation. Like,
What?
okay.
No, because I'm telling you about it. Okay. So one of the reasons why you and I connected, this is too much.
First 10 minutes.
I'll wait.
Sorry. Go.
No, we're good. So one of the ways that we actually connected was on the topic of presence and being, in tune with your body, because in order to be in tune with your emotionality, you actually have to be in tune with your body as well, because emotions present physically in the body. And one of the places that how lack of presence can mess up a relationship, I came to realize the importance of it when watching just a scene from the movie The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn, which I don't know if you saw, but
I used to have it on DVD.
Everyone was talking about it on Twitter for a week.
Recently?
I'll fully admit it. It's only because of Twitter that I'm even aware of it.
Recently.
Just recently.
I haven't seen anything about it besides for you.
Well, let me. Okay, so there's a scene where they actually break up, right?
Great.
Also, for some reason, I think it might be my internet. Your voice is coming in super choppy.
Really?
Am I coming across as choppy to you?
No.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yeah, but there's this weird half-second delay.
This is terrible. Let me put in headphones.
Yeah, I'll do the same.
I still use wired. This is such a ridiculous start to this. Okay, one of the things Jonathan and I have sparred on conversationally on Twitter, which he's kind of touching on right now, just so the audience knows what's going on, is masculine and feminine energy. He's very aware of energy dynamics,
Yes.
which goes deeper than all of for whatever reason you're finding this, right? You'd be on money Twitter and you're like, what is Trina talking about? You could be in sales, what's Jonathan doing? Or you're aware of the deeper level, but beyond these tactical red pill philosophies and these naive chick philosophies, and how those energies kind of intermingle with each other, which happens in sales and wealth. It happens in our own personal health journeys, and it happens in relationships. And so you were talking about, let me see if it makes this sound better. Tell me if this is better. Is this better?
Well, okay, yeah. Now I was gonna say, now that we're both silent, I mean, I can hear you.
You can hear me better or worse?
You have to say something. I think a little bit better.
Oh, I just heard.
I think it might be my internet for some reason. It's been getting. How can?
No, I think it might be mine because the last person I had on here. This is ridiculous. It's been 10 minutes. The last person I had on was also saying they couldn't see me. What did I do wrong? I don't know.
I don't know. You're coming in at 360p.
Oh,
but I assume that if you're recording on your end, it won't matter.
Yeah, it says actual recording is higher quality on the edge of my window right now. But it fucks with the conversation flow.
I don't know.
My God.
Well, I'm gonna send you a. We're gonna go meta here.
The most Asian pose ever.
I'm gonna send you a photo of what I'm saying. It's perfect.
Oh, it's annoying.
Okay. Anyways, the breakup, the breakup with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston, and the importance of like emotional vulnerability. So in the breakup scene where they're fighting, it's really clear that there's this massive miscommunication going on between the two. Where and if you want to, for anyone watching, if you want to pause and go and find YouTube and just like type in the breakup,
Yeah, I should really cut it if I was
all like the
recording
3 and 5 minute videos,
maybe I'll add
they
some.
have this scene where it's like, like, hey, would you like to, could you help me with the dishes? Oh, I want to, let me play some video games. It's how I get my peace. All right. Well, I want you, to want to do the dishes. And then like they sprawl into this fight where he's going like, oh, what? So now you're upset because I don't have an inherent desire to do the dishes? No, I want you to offer to do the dishes. Right. And then it becomes about the lemons, right? I asked you to pick up 12 lemons and you brought 3. And he goes, well, if I had known that this was going to be all about lemons, I would have brought 24 lemons. I would have brought 100 lemons. You know what? I wish, bro, I wish that I had brought a little bag for each person of lemons. And it's really clear that she's trying to communicate something and he's completely missing it. Right. So she doesn't know how to say what's going on inside of her. And he's really, really bad at listening. So they're a perfect little, match in hell. And what I realized was, so first off, it came onto Twitter and it was like, oh, who's right, who's wrong, and everyone's going like, oh, the girls, the guy's the jerk, and the girl, and I realized like they're both super immature and dumb. First off, he's kind of a man child. She married a man child, so like that's her mistake on the one half. Also, he's making the mistake of being a man child, right? She doesn't know how to communicate properly. He doesn't know how to listen. Like they're both being really, really dumb.
Why do you think they're dumb?
And
I know I'm being obtuse on purpose.
oh, I mean, so that's like I'm like it depends on how deep we want to go. Like
So if I
whose mommy and daddy didn't
so
love them, and
I'm trying to just like if somebody is listening to this and doesn't get what we are working towards talking about, I'm trying to make sure that they can like follow it a little bit. So like in that conversation, right? A
yeah,
lot of guys and I talk to them like they're like, what is going on, right? Because the masculine takes things literally. And I'm not implying
hmm
men aren't out of touch with their emotions always, but I'm saying like if a woman is like, I feel like you never do this, and you respond and you're like, but I did it that time, and I did it that time, and I did it that time. Does she ever respond feeling better? No, because it's not a
no,
one
no, no,
problem.
never, never. Because she's trying to communicate. Well, and she's trying to communicate an emotion, and she's not doing it very well. And he doesn't understand that she's trying to communicate an emotion either, or communicate a need. So, so we can funnel this right back into that scene where she's trying to communicate a need. She's trying to get a need met, right? And we'll unravel what the needs are. But like on the surface level, it's actually a very simple need, right? It's like if he does the dishes with me, I'm going to feel like he's still on my side and we're doing something together. And I'm going to feel a little bit of appreciation from him because he's helping me, right? It's something on that level. On his end, all he feels is manipulated, right? Because she's trying to get him to do something
Right.
to meet her needs. And here's the thing that I think people get wrong about manipulation. There's this kind of background assumption that people make that manipulation is always covert and intentional and
Yes.
malicious.
Yes.
And it's often not. It's often like a manipulation happens when you try to use someone else's emotions to get some sort of win-lose situation occurring where you're winning in some manner, right? So from
Or
Vince
where
Vaughn, his character's
or maybe
perspective,
or maybe deeper implication, they're not winning, right? Because
right? Oh yeah, yeah. That's the
manipulation
secret. That's the second layer of it.
manipulation can result positive some, but if somebody's intentions, oh, there's so many rabbit holes. If somebody's intention behind getting you to do something feels wrong, it's either wrong because their intentions are coming from a bad place, or it feels wrong because you have
Mhm.
some sort of resistance there, which for Vince Vaughn, he felt like he was being manipulated because he felt, number one, he was being coerced into doing something he didn't want to do. And number two, it was touching on a deeper bottleneck
Mhm.
in their relationship that he was already
Yeah.
avoiding.
Right. And so like in the situation where if the manipulation had worked, he would have felt resentful. And it was clear that like in the scene, like he throws the control down, fine, I'll do the damn dishes. He feels manipulated. He's resentful because of it. And if they had like if she had said nothing and they would have done the dishes, she would have felt resentful because she had to resort to manipulating him to get, that need met. And also it feels hollow because he's clearly resentful for it, right? So, and her trying to get him to do an action in order to meet her needs instead of saying like, "Hey, here's what my needs are. Maybe we can collaborate to get them fixed, to get them handled." It results in this temporary fix that only deepens the wound further.
And they start this pattern of
So,
nagging and then him maybe doing something sometimes about it, and her still not having this deeper need, and
mhm,
resentment grows on both sides, and then it's like the real problem gets so
right.
buried that they're never really that it becomes harder and harder to address it the more time they spend not going deeper. Now, I think what would be useful here too is to explain what Vince Vaughn in that state maybe some like in the hindsight would see as the better thing for her to do and why she can't do that, right? Like maybe in an
Yeah.
ideal fantasy for a man in response to this woman nagging him to do the fucking dishes, he's like, why doesn't she just what is that?
I'm so glad that you asked that question because that is the next thing that we were going to get to. So I love the fact that we're just like here. I love it. Also, I love your energy during these conversations too. Like it's so positive and nice.
I'm pretty aggressive.
So no, it encourages me to like stay on my toes and push forward. So it's like it actually is a lot of fun.
Cool.
So so in the bad version where they break up, which by the way, the thing that you brought up with nagging, later on in the scene, he complains about her nagging him. Oh, and like clean the bathroom, your belt doesn't match, this thing, the other thing. Like it actually is it gets uncovered that this is a recurring because of course it is. Like you don't break up over one small fight, you break up over 1,000 small fights, right? So here's what she might have said that would have gotten a response. And by the way, I have now tested this out on like at minimum like 6 different guys where I've had this conversation and test. So if your guy, put yourself in the shoes of Vince Vaughn. So the context is they had a family dinner. It kind of didn't go great. She had asked Vince to pick up some lemons and he kind of botched that. Now it's after the dinner. He's, trying to relax, play some video games. She comes in, right? So in the original version,
And
help
she
me with
is
the dishes, blah, blah,
scraping
blah.
away
He
all
feels
of the
manipulated.
she's been cooking all day. She's in the kitchen over the stove. There's like
Hmm.
5 or 10 minutes before all the family and people you don't want to impress are about to come over for dinner. She's been working all day and like doing it. And all she asked him was pick up the lemons. She's frustrated. She's cooking. He walks in, kicks the shoes off, gets on the couch, reclines, clicks it, and is just chilling. And she walks in and she's like, "What the fuck?" So that's
Right. So imagine instead of the manipulation, which is help me do the dishes. Oh my God, it's not about doing the dishes, whether or not you want to do it. Instead of that, if she says something like this, right? And pay attention, like for the guys, like pay attention to how you feel. Cause and then I'll tell you what all the other guys have given me as a reaction. So she comes in and says, "Hey honey, do you mind if we talk? I'm really frustrated right now." And like, takes a moment, like, I went, I set up this dinner because I wanted to be really helpful. And, I wanted to show our parents that like we're doing really great. And I wanted them to feel like confident in us and proud for us. And I wanted to make the two of us look good. And, so I put all this work in and I didn't want to do it alone. I wanted you to feel like you were a part of it. So I asked you to grab some lunch because I wanted you to be a part of it. And instead of having you be a part of it, I felt like I was betrayed and let down by the apathy of, the man that I love. And, I just wanted to be helpful. And I don't know if I was helpful. I don't, because I haven't gotten any feedback, and I feel really unappreciated right now because I put through all this hard work, and now I'm just cleaning up after it. And I know that video games helps you feel your peace. What brings me peace is how, and I know this isn't going to be the same for the two of us, but having a clean house helps me feel at peace. So that's where I am right now. I'm frustrated and I feel lonely, and I want to feel connected to you, and I want to know that I was actually helpful and I was doing something good. So, you know, can you help me out here? What can we do? Just something like that. And the response from and including me was like, yeah, oh my God, baby. I'm so sorry that I didn't communicate. Like, you did so well. You did amazing. I'm sorry I didn't realize that you were wanting to, like, it inspires this sort of like you said where you are emotionally. I want to be for you in that moment, like complete. And like even one of my friends was like looking at me just like, if you were her, I would have want to bang you so badly right now just because of that emotion. Like just complete like turn on into, I want to actively be a part of relating to you in that moment. But
It's like emotional
here's
delivery.
the problem is that, yeah, like, well, because she's being vulnerable, she's not demanding anything of him in that moment. She's just saying, "This is where I am, and I would like for us to work together somehow." And then freeing up the space for him to come in and take on the masculine role, because part of the inversion that happens when she tries to manipulate him is that she's taking on part of the masculine role by asserting into the relationship something that should happen. And so one of the issues that kind of happens sometimes is that girls will start taking on masculine aspects of the role and kind of hoping that a guy will that the guy that she's with will just kind of like take over. And that's not how guys work, right? Because from the masculine point of respect, me taking over someone else's role is a vote of no confidence in that person, right? Like if I'm with a group of guys and one guy's like, the navigator, like we're out on the town doing whatever. And I say, you know what, put your phone away. I got it. It's an act of disrespect to him because the communication from me is, you suck. You're screwing up. You've taken us to like the wrong bar or whatever we're doing. You're taking us to the wrong place like 3 times. I like you, dude, but you're out.
Whereas the
Right. So it's an act of
feminine
disrespect. And so guys,
whereas the feminine has a different perception of being helpful. Like at its core, the woman
yeah,
we enjoy being helpful. Like it's like, let me help you, let me take care of this, let me
yes.
do this, let me whatever. But anterior reasons that didn't happen for them in that hypothetical whatever. Number one, one prerequisite is her self-awareness, right? Like she needs to be aware that she feels
Hmm.
unappreciated. This has been a chronic thing on some level. Him not showing up, him not being present, like getting home, not clearly not being aware of her where she's at, right? She's been slaving away in the kitchen all day.
Hmm.
She just needed some fucking lemons. And for her to confront that emotion in herself requires either like a real conversation with herself in that moment with that doesn't spill out into like angry resentment where she's speaking, I just want the fucking lemons, like actual true deeper awareness that she feels
Hmm.
unappreciated at its core. Um and being able to communicate that involves very explicit logical handholding of her emotions. Like I think there's a grounded element to it.
It's
What?
mhm. I think so. I think you're right. I think a big part of it too is, so in the relationship dynamic, they've clearly been miscommunicating for a while. For her to sit there, let's say we even say that she's fully present of herself, like it's clearly not what's going on, but even if you give her the full presence of mind, for her to sit there and communicate her emotions in the first place requires on her end an extraordinary act of courage, because the easy way out is to say, "Oh, do the dishes with me," because if he rejects the dishes, then, oh, he just didn't feel like doing the dishes. But if she throws herself out and says, like, I feel unappreciated, I feel lonely, I feel betrayed, I feel like I'm not supported, and he blows that off, now he's blowing off the core of her. He's blown her off, not the dishes, her feelings, her emotions, her experiences. And that can be completely devastating for a person, right? Especially so for her to so even if she had the presence of mind, it now becomes an act of courage for her to say, okay, this guy basically blows me off every time I try to get him to do anything. Now I'm going to throw my entire core out there and hope the same exact thing that has happened 100 times doesn't happen again. So one of the tasks that becomes really, really important in the masculine and feminine, like in building a healthy relationship, is for on her half, for her to be present and practice being present, but also for him to intentionally take time for them to practice trusting one another. Where it's like, maybe we should take, I don't know, an hour a week where we're just gonna sit there and kind of like deconstruct how we're feeling. And we're gonna practice having you figure out your emotions with me so that when an actual problem comes up, instead of you vomiting your emotions at me and trying to get me to do stuff and making me feel like I'm getting manipulated, instead you can say, honey, I am having a moment here. Like, I'm not even sure how I'm feeling, but like, can we talk it out? I just need to figure out how I'm feeling right now. And then we can have a discussion on, what we can do to fix that.
And and a prerequisite to being able to do that as the masculine is also being in touch with the emotion. Even though he's leading and taking an action to like guide the situation and the problem, if he's avoiding his own emotions, he will never volunteer that solution, right? Because the masculine, it's almost like brings me to those cliche terms of like hold space. But if the masculine is also avoiding, okay, so we talked about she's not getting the deeper needs met. Her defensive barriers are just like putting it on the fucking lemons. And because it would be an act, you said it, an act of courage for her to say, like, I don't really feel like loved, appreciated, whatever. On the masculine side, if he is not
Mhm.
feeling it for her, if he doesn't, like, if for whatever reason, he is emotionally unavailable, then he will also avoid that conversation, right? Like, because the feminine is the mirror. So when you're talking about them acting out a solution, I don't think Vince had that prerequisite then.
No, he didn't. No, no, of course not. Like, he barely understands that she's upset. Like, he's confused. Like, he doesn't even understand that she's trying to communicate something about how she's feeling, and she's just doing it really poorly,
And that's a
right?
level
Because
you
if at
don't
least he had
take
that
for
presence of
granted.
mind.
Yeah. That's a level you're aware of that you might take for granted though, right? Because you have to be willing and interested and curious or care, whatever the fuck your incentive is, to go deeper. You just narrated him being like, all right, let's see what the real problem is. Most men are like, that's the real problem.
Mhm.
Or not most, I should
Right.
say. I
Well,
take back most men, but like just the natural surface level instincts or whatever. It's-
yeah. Well, one of the issues is the one of the reasons why these conversations become so necessary too is the fact that a proper view of how to deal with the opposite sex has been mostly obliterated from like the last 2 generations. Like, so we can transition a little bit. Like the idea of like meeting the fundamental needs of the 2 sexes, which this is a sort of a yin yang principle. So it's not that it's 100% one way and
what
100%
is
the
it?
other sex. It's like 80% and 20% and then 80% and 20%, right? So for guys, one of the core needs is, respect and trust, right? That's how we process like that someone cares for us. So a point where I've legitimately had just a handful, of all my relationships, there's been 1 or 2 where the person would say, "I love you," and I would be like, no, I wouldn't say anything out loud, but like in my head, it would be like,
Oh.
because and like looking back and reprocessing it later, being and realizing it's because you don't trust me. You don't trust me. You can't even be present with me. You can't even share your experiences, let alone your emotions with me. So what is love to you? What other than like you anxiously saying that phrase so that so that I'm still attached to you so that I won't leave you.
Ooh, I have also experienced a
That's not
I mean,
yeah. Like, and
so
it's like it's the most
you said,
unpleasant feeling.
but for you, it's a lack of respect. And I think for me, or do you
S
agree with that? What do you
so
like? What do you think
so
that what's a little bit behind
what
that reaction? Because it's different, might even be different for
so yeah, well, because it's the masculine and feminine. So, like, wait, so when you say different for you, do you mean like your needs as a woman or your needs in terms of the idea of respect?
so the other person's he for me, she for you says, I love you. And our response is, no, you don't.
Mhm.
For you, what's behind the no, you don't?
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's gonna be because here's the thing, like love is a of like all the emotions, love is the most like kinesthetic of the like in terms of a full body experience, love is full body. Like anger, like if you pay attention to how present you are in the different areas of your body, like anger is like right behind the eyes, right? All the energy is like here, just like lasers coming out,
I just
right? Whereas sadness is kind of like here, like lust, at least for me, is like concentrated in like in the nose, weirdly like facial nose, the front of the bodies, but like love where you're fully in alignment with yourself and there's not any of that bullshit like, oh, I love her, but like can't marry her, or I love her, but my mom wouldn't approve, or like any of that stuff, like just like full out love is a full body experience. And so if someone tells me, oh, I love you, and I feel completely disconnected from them, it's like that whatever you're saying, it doesn't feel like you're saying what you're saying.
the way I perceive it
Right.
is
And so,
interesting because it's very outlier. In that dynamic, you sound
okay.
more in touch with your emotions than she does, right? Whereas the assumption on a generalized level with no deeper levels involved in the sentence I'm about to emit, um, the woman is the emotional one, which is interesting because you could have held very good frame with that conversation. But at its root, in my eyes, you're more in touch with the emotions of you, her, and the dynamic than she is. When I experienced a version of that, my response is,
Okay.
you don't even know me, right? And
Ooh.
it kind of
Ooh.
reminds right? Like because
No,
you're talking about
finish what you're gonna say.
okay, you're talking about right at the beginning. Like she says, I love you. It's early. Am I right?
Mhm.
And you said, oh, full body
We can't go too deep into this because I'm gonna put anyone on blast.
on blast. I'm always revealing myself. I really don't care. Everybody thinks that
No, no, I said I'm not gonna no, but it's no, I'm not putting you on blast, but I'm not gonna get too deep into any of my relationships because there's
oh,
we'll leave it at that.
oh the internet.
That'll be for the non-recorded version of this podcast.
Too many non-recorded things. Fuck, I lost my train of thought. For
Okay,
me,
so you don't even know me.
yeah, you don't even know me. So I asked what was behind that response for you, right? Because in my shoes in
Mhm,
that scenario, I'm like, I'm almost being more logical than they are. And in your scenario, you're more in touch with the feelings than they are. And that's interesting to me, right? Because when we're talking about feminine and masculine energies, which exist in everyone, even though there is a group, there's an archetype of men who get triggered by the word feminine and women who just have no what's going on. But when you're more integrated or whatever the fuck you want to call it, you have both strong and both feminine and masculine energy. You have the logic at your disposal and you have the emotion at your disposal. And they're not enemies. They
mhm.
fucking work together, right? So it's interesting that in response to you, you're more in touch with the emotion of it, right? Because you're just saying like maybe she's manipulating, emotionally manipulating, but in her perspective, she's just expressing herself. But really subconsciously, she wants to make sure you don't go anywhere, and she wants to like, and that the tool she's using is emotion, which is manipulation. On my end, It was almost like that, where like, oh, they're so in touch with it. They feel all great. Like it's the beginning. We just met. It's so exciting. La la la. Like, but you don't know me yet. Like I could be crazy, and I am crazy. But like, you saying I love you, like we just met me. Like, is this? And then we could get all esoteric with like soulmates and shit. But like, what does that bring up for you
So
today?
because the fact that you said that is amazing because so I mentioned like the needs for a man, but I did not say what the needs for a woman are. Right. So the 80% for a man is respect and trust. The 80% for a woman is feeling seen and heard. And so your reaction of you don't even know me can also be restated as, but you don't see me. You're not hearing me yet. The core that is me, you've seen 5%. Yeah, we're vibing. Yeah, we're having a great time. The emotions are high, but you don't know how I am at like 5 a.m. when I just woke up from a nightmare. You don't know how I am when that time of month comes around and I'm just like a mess. You don't know any of the depth that I have. All you know is that that we've had fun for the last half hour and, we're hanging out and chatting and you're feeling good about it. That's not the same as love.
So,
That was a resonant one, wasn't it?
so trippy that that's what, is that what you put on the whiteboard? Yeah, it super resonate.
No, no, actually, it's on one of my whiteboards. Hold on. I got to get some water.
You didn't bring water to your calls? What a rookie. And now he's leaving me alone on the screen.
Man, I have, no, 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 no. Shush, shush. All this conversation is making me thirsty.
Too much.
Oh, you Perrier fancy sparkling bitch. Okay.
How dare you? Perrier is old news.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fine. Fine. I'll walk it back. I'll walk it back.
Fun fact, I didn't like sparkling water till the summer. I have these like spontaneous things that just happen in my brain. If you haven't seen my Twitter, and one of them this summer was now I like sparkling water. I used to hate it. I don't know why.
Nice.
Anyways,
That's nice.
yeah,
It's fun to keep evolving and discovering like things about how you can experience life.
it's very refreshing too because this is what happens. Like there's so many rabbit holes that come up for me when people talk to me that I need it to be so specific for me to stay on track. And that's my biggest curse and my blessing, right?
Mm.
And it's not, and it can make me look like I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about because I don't. In the moment, I'm like, rabbit hole, rabbit hole, rabbit hole, rabbit hole. This memory of this over here that resonates. Oh, this concept, blah, blah. Like that's what my world is. So having like that anchored in that example and then to take it from there, even that is hard to not.
Yeah.
um,
No, but it's so fun. No, but I love the fact that that lined up so perfectly where your experience of this is how I experience like not feeling loved matches up with me just coming in all authoritatively like, let me tell you about the needs of a woman. I know these things. I'm an expert.
yeah. What do you think?
But like I said, it's like 80-20.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where what really
What were you
a lot.
what were you asking about? You were about to ask me what I think, and then you immediately diverted.
Fuck, 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 fuck. I was gonna dig deeper into the feminine
Okay.
on that side of it. Like the like kind of what we just did with the Vince
In
Vaughn
what way?
Jennifer Aniston. But then when I got distracted, I was gonna ask you. That's that one too.
You got this.
What did you say after?
After I called you a Perrier sparkling water bitch.
Yeah.
I forget. Well, it's okay. So the needs of the emotional needs, or not even emotional, it's the perceptual needs for a man. So he has to perceive and measure that he's being respected and trusted, and the woman has to feel like she's being seen and heard.
Okay, so what is the
And then
solution then?
I mean,
So like the woman said, "I love you." You're like, "No, you don't." What do you do from there?
now we can go to my whiteboard.
Yeah. How do you handle that situation?
Okay. Okay. Well, so One of the things that I love is this. Does this show left to right the correct way, or is this backwards?
Yeah, it's
First
right.
off,
I just screenshot it. Yeah, it's right.
oh, what? Thanks. That's yeah. We'll just put that as my dating profile picture from now on, ladies.
Male,
But no,
male.
is it showing up backwards, or is this?
You.
So first off, is this readable? Is this left to right correct? Okay, that's the important part. We'll draw a little. Wow, my backwards drawing skills are terrible.
Is that a circle?
Do you know how hard it is to draw backwards through a camera? That's the worst yin yang symbol I've ever drawn, and I'm not an
Sorry.
artist.
No, you're right.
Okay. So in terms of listen, we got to get through this, okay?
Little male, come on with the boundaries. So we need to assert the point.
So for the feet for the so you can think about this in terms of what is the default state. So for the feminine, it's presence, and for the masculine, it's assertion, which you can also put in like aggression, taking action, whatever you want to, right? So and you can kind of tell because like the most toxic, destructive versions of each is the really selfish girl who's like basically a narcissist. Everything's about me, completely in the moment and unchecked by her, in her desires, right? So you can even
Glued to
think
her
about like the
phone, glued
childish
to her
version of this.
selfie cam, glued to her Nick stick, glued to all these different things that she's not present at all. She doesn't live life present at all.
Right. Right. Well, and it's also like you can also think of the character in Willy Wonka who turns into a blueberry.
Mm.
Don't care how I want it now. Right? She nothing so she has no appreciation for anyone else. She has no boundaries and her father's failed to put all her boundaries. She's, taken over her father's, own will and used it for herself. So like she's just trapped all the way over here. On the assertion side, a man who's like so far off into that he's just like kind of lost in as a raging monster, Genghis Khan,
Right. Right.
right? Or
Kicking
any guy
ass.
who's just
She
like
thinks he's
unchecked
kicking
aggression,
ass,
just
taking names, bagging, a 3 at the club every weekend. Like, um, then taking
right.
like just reckless action is which is I think also nuanced because you also do not benefit from having zero chaos behind your action as masculine. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, so a man who has zero chaos is a man who is purely so we can actually talk about the toxic versions of each. So the toxic version of assertion is like the asshole goes out, gets drunk every night, causes fights, super egoistic, is trying to bang girls without any sort of like appreciation for what's going to happen to her in the aftermath, or even what's going to happen to him in the aftermath,
Or
right?
even the
You know,
clean version of toxic assertion is
narciss-
like super controlling, you know, leader of a
yeah.
business, doesn't even drink or smoke, but like everything must be I control, blah, blah, blah. Like just whether some, yeah.
So the guy who's completely like ordered and has no chaos whatsoever. That's the guy who only has boundaries, says no to everything, says no to any sort of chaos. My world is going to stay exactly the same no matter what,
Mm.
right? And then over here, appreciation, that's the people pleaser. That's the person who is a slave to the desires of other people, continually gets used, and then kind of ends up like resentful and spiteful because their needs aren't getting met. and no matter what she does, right? And that's where we talk about like the covert contracts where you think that you're negotiating with other people for your needs to get met, but you've never said anything. And so all they think is, oh, this person's really nice and they always help out. And then like you lash, and eventually they so much resentment lashes out, builds up that they lash out. And then everyone's like, where did that come from? You were always so nice. Why are you suddenly such a massive dick? Right. That's where you get those nice guys who are like, hey, hi, hello, you look so beautiful. And then she rejects him and is like, oh, you massive blah, blah, blah. You're such a bitch. I hope you shrivel up and die and hope you get raped. Like all that, like just it goes from like nice to just 180 to being the most horrible person ever. As someone who's locked in that sort of people pleasing stuff. Which by the way, these are skills, right? So being present is your ability to be self-aware of yourself, of your body, and through that also your emotions, and being able to express that. Appreciation is having that curiosity about another person, right? So it's like, who am I? Who are you? And how can I potentially fit into your world? Right? Boundaries are somewhat self-explanatory, but it's like these are my limits, and also this is how you can fit into my world, right? So the reason why I put these two right next to each other is because how can I fit into your world? How can you fit into mine? I think that's really, really fitting. And then the assertion is, you know, what am I trying to get out of the world? Right? So what's kind of interesting is that these two are both forms of communication. These two is war, right? Attack and defense. So what's interesting is you look at this and one of the kind of the fun realizations is that the way that this is set up is fighting as a couple is going to absolutely be toxic because you can if you're butting heads, while my whiteboard tries to escape from me, if you're butting heads, you can't like if I'm fighting, then I can't communicate, right? There is no appreciation. Like if we're in some sort of fight, I can't appreciate your side. I can't. I'm busy defending myself. I'm busy forming my own opinions. Like the ability of a person to simultaneously hold their opinion and someone else's opinion and objectively evaluate both of them and come to a conclusion and then negotiate with the other person about like who's right and who's wrong and how we can meet together in the middle. That's like 1%, maybe 1%. And you have to have insane emotional control at the same time. It's not a thing.
My confirmation bias is striking gold right now, because my esoteric opinion, which was also implied and got room to breathe on Pat Sedman's podcast, which should be a fucking saga. Episode 1,
Mhm.
Trina on Pat Sedman's podcast. Episode 2, this um is the world is going through this death and rebirth, and we don't live in the same world where
Mhm.
females could just be like 100% feminine and males were just 100% masculine. That world has been gone for a while. Now everybody's confused. Everybody's lost, right? Because when you were just pointing to the female and male, things you just narrated as necessary on the male side involved presence and appreciation. And things that you described as necessary on the female side involved boundaries and assertion. Maybe the dosage
Yeah.
was less because it's a woman and a man, but they needed the other. And in my opinion, the new era, after all this shit finishes breaking down, which I don't think it's done. Pat agrees. I think it's gonna get worse. And I'm not worried because I think afterwards it's gonna be fucking beautiful. And I think that everybody who is like has done this kind of work, like will be fine. And that being which is at its core integration. My opinion is it's not gonna be good for people who aren't
Mhm.
integrating. And it's popping up everywhere. Like and the whole world facilitates it. So people are trapped, right? Because people are trapped in this binary, extreme thinking world, no sense of nuance. Feminine stuff is for females. Masculine stuff is for males. So I'm gonna go over here and hide my emotions because I need to feel like I'm a woman. So I'm not gonna say what I want because I'm a girl over here. But fuck you, like, right? Oh,
Well, so there's so many rabbit holes. I mean, in terms of how the world is, so so the problem is that you can't deny nature, right? Well, I mean, you can, and then things go south really, really fast, right? So, so in terms of this, like I said, like this is like an 80-20 thing, right? So it's you have the defaults, and then the other half becomes is contextually true, right?
Yeah.
So at the core for a man, your boundaries and your assertions kind of become and that that might you can kind of generalize into like the strength of a man having spine, right? So as a girl, if you're gonna be in a relationship with a man, you want to know that he's strong and that you can relax into your feminine when you're around him, right? Which is kind of like that nice release of like, oh my god, I can finally relax. I can just be silly and have fun and just be like kind of ditzy and like silly and just he's got it and I can just bloom into my feminine because he's got the masculine side handled,
He's covering the
right?
masculine energy in this dynamic so I can relax into the feminine energy.
hmm Yeah, and this is very much this is like very much relationship based. So this is not like if you're a female, don't go and try to be if you're like in the corporate world, being present becomes a luxury. It's you know what I mean. Like for men, it's always been a luxury. Like being present is a luxury. Like I can't be like if I'm fighting, the reason why anger I think is centered behind the eyes is because vision is the most important part of being in a fight, right? I don't need to be present to the rest of my body. I don't. Like if I get cut, I don't need to be sitting there thinking about the cut. If I get a cracked rib, I don't need to be sitting there going like, "Oh man, maybe I should like no, you're busy swinging." Right?
But the visions guide
So,
all these instinctually trained movements for the rest of your body to respond. So a prerequisite there is also having your
mhm,
entire body on board with what the battle you're.
yeah. Well, because one of the cool ways that you can reinterpret this too. So we're not going to have time to go down this road. Part of where I found the which by the way I love dualities. Like, human nature is dualistic. Like the whole like things come in threes. No, they come in twos. 100% comes in twos, right? So it's male, war, female communication, which then breaks into attack and defense. How about you? Or how about you? How about me? Shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Damn it.
I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah. So this so so back in the early 2000s, back when like the pickup era was happening, with David D'Angelo and Mystery and all these other dudes. There was one program that I came across, which was actually really fascinating, called the Authentic Man Program, and it was. I'm gonna send you at least one clip because
Yeah, I want to see that. That's
it was so completely radically different, so radically different. So they had three principles, which was presence and appreciation. I wonder why those words are similar, and integrity.
ugh,
Right? So and they had it built out and here you're gonna love this. It was so weird and vibey and like out of the norm because so they would talk about like what presence means and being fully aware of your body and appreciation and like getting the other person's world. And then the way that they would practice it is like because it's always like, oh, we're gonna live tape a seminar type of BS is like how the content gets made. And they had a group of women who were very present and embodied and very in tune with themselves, which you kind of need for this sort of exercise. And they would have guys practice being with the girl, like not even necessarily talking, just like walk up to the girls and just stand there for a minute.
brilliant.
And then they're going to tell you, like, based on your energy that ripples through them, what their response is. Right. And like you get to see it, and you can see some guys like will come up to like the three girls and he'll sit there and kind of like come in like this and then stand up. And you can see like this visceral reaction on the girl's face is like, why did you sneak in? Like, this is a stage. You can just, and like, but like get these reactions from these girls and say like, no, when that first time when you were with me, it was like, I felt myself shrinking away. I wanted to be elsewhere. Like giving them this brutal feedback. Like imagine you're a dude and, you know, you just walk up to a girl, and she just tells you like, yeah, I wanted to run. I wanted to be anywhere else because just the way that you were standing there looking at me was like, I was not human to you. Right. And then doing a little bit of work and being like, all right, let's talk with truth and figure
Oh
out
my
like kind of
gosh,
where
that
you're at
is
and
fucking
going
genius.
through and
I'm
then getting, then seeing,
So what
right.
is
And then
that
seeing
there? Is
like,
that like
the
related to like
reactions like
the
changed.
mismatch between like showing up authentically and how he showed up? Because that contained environment, right? Because that's very ideal for that sort of exercise. Because typically a woman's gonna be like, oh yeah, because we will enmesh with the like uncomfortable energy of it, or we'll do extremes, or my species. Like, oh yeah, we'll do the appreciation, like, oh, don't worry, because I don't want you to feel bad about yourself. You're clearly below the surface carrying some sort of problem that you approached me with. I don't know what it is, but like, whatever, like,
Right.
so you can feel better. Or they're the cold stone bitches that like, if anybody approaches me that gives me any sort of mild or pity, and then it's like, oh, ew. Those are the two extremes. But in that
Yeah.
like exercise, she is both in touch with her actual deeper response. She is aware of
Hmm.
the necessity. She has the right to provide that blatant, core, deeper feedback. Whereas in a social situation, I don't think that it's
Right.
necessarily good to always have that as a green light, right? Like,
No, you can't because like the nice thing is like there's that sort of, I hate myself for using this word. There's a safe space where she gets to have, where she gets to be fully in touch with herself and communicate it, and not only have it communicate, but have that feedback accepted for whatever it is, and then getting to see the man respond to it and then come back better, which is like
oh, he tries again.
putting myself like, and the other side is like, can you imagine how delicious that would be? Like of being able to like just give someone, this is my authentic self in response to you, and then they shine brighter as a
It's
result.
like a vibrational audit.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah,
Because
and like the
you
thing
have to
is
come
it
with the
it
correct
doesn't
energy.
the right. Well, it's not even that. It's correct. It's the ability to course correct and respond to the feedback. Because like it's not like they would give this stuff of like, oh, I want to run away or whatever, and then he works on himself. It's like, okay, what are you lying about, or what are you not being honest with yourself about? And he comes back, and now the girl's like, oh yeah, now I would fuck you. That's not what was happening. Like a lot of the feedback was, you and I'm really just enjoying being with you now, or even something like one of the feedbacks that like struck me was she said, I feel like there's a great well of sadness within you, but also a rising out of that because it feels like it's okay. There's actually a little bit of playfulness arising out of that from me as a result. Like, so like the fact that he was in tune with the whatever's going on for him, like the despair of being where he is and not having what he wants to, but where he wants to be, but he's owning it and not putting any of it on her. It's just like, hey, this is where I am. Like, I have these regrets from the past. They're part of me, but it's not on you to fix it or make anything happen. I'm just here and I'm with you at the moment, and that's okay. Like what arose from her was like, you know what? There's room for us to play. Like we can have a fun conversation. We can be a little bit open and silly and see what happens.
Ugh,
So that
wow.
program, so I'm gonna send
That
you some of the,
program is
because
fire.
it's
Damn, that's super
right.
woo. I
So
wonder how they market that shit.
yeah.
Fuck.
That's what happened with all of the pickup stuff from the 2000s. The website now is like, it's there, but it's broken, and they haven't
Yeah.
like, the guys eventually moved on with their lives and
Well, I think
and
the
that sort of
retro
thing.
stuff
The one
also went through that death and rebirth, right? Like everybody, like I feel like a lot of us in this, because I have a lot of overlapping Twitters on my thing, money Twitter, esoteric
Mhm.
Twitter, like red pill Twitter, whatever. And most of the people in the self development space, like including you, Pat, like Noah, people like this is like it was almost a rite of passage for us in collecting this awareness and knowledge. Like you move through it and then you realize there's more
Mhm.
and you expand and build on it, or you just like kind of die, like whatever red pill influencers at the time. No, I don't mean die in a bad way, like maybe sometimes, but like you know what I mean? But it still was something we moved through that was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense for these reasons. These are all the reasons it's kind of not meshing with my real lived experience. Like this is something's off. and then taking it further. Like all of us kind of went through that
Right.
version of that. So
Well,
it's sad that
yeah, because in honesty, well, it's not that. Oh, that's a rough one because a lot of times people are trying to fix wounds that they have, right? So a lot of the guys in the pickup era, most of them just did the whole pickup thing until they got like a steady girlfriend or got a wife or got a girl pregnant or whatever, and then they bowed out, right? The guys who were making the material, like Mystery, got a girlfriend, had a baby, and stopped making stuff because he was trying to patch the wound of, I don't know how to talk to girl. I don't know how to have a simple conversation like that. That single knowledge that is so far removed from who I am that I have to manufacture, here's some stories that I'm going to tell, and here's some magic tricks to get her attention, and this, that, and the other thing, just to patch up enough. And so what a lot of these people are doing is they're spotting a gaping hole in their own psyche, in their own, in their knowledge that they ought to have had as a kid, but they didn't have. Like like this stuff here,
cognitive.
this stuff here. I'm 34. I'm 34. This information, like, or even like the basic of all right, men need respect and trust. Women need to feel seen and heard, right? And men want to be competent. Women want to feel like they're useful. I should have known that by 14, right? There should have been like, I witnessed a fight between my mom and my dad handles it. And then my dad kind of like pulls me aside. I was like, listen, sure you saw that. She just wanted to feel like I was paying attention and that I still cared about her and that I was like, putting in effort, right? She had a moment of anxiety that happens sometimes with the girl. Sometimes her emotions kind of overwhelm her. And she just needs a guy who's going to kind of guide her through that moment. And then on the other side of it, she feels really, really grateful and she opens up and everyone's happy. Like, but somehow that didn't. So now here I am at 34 writing shit on a whiteboard.
I think it's like a almost like a collective
And
cultural re- repression. Like I don't think they I think it was super, super useful, but I don't think it was sustainable. Because the what happened for them when these people like got happy or went to find themselves. That's what I'm talking about with the death and rebirth, right? Like some of them got wives and girls, the cognitive dissonance tore them apart because they were happy and like in love, and then left. And then the other of them were like, damn, I can't keep this going. Like it's tearing my soul apart. For example, do you remember Goldman?
yeah,
Yeah, I hung out with him and
yeah.
obviously
Oh,
like
dude, I had some conversation. That guy was
I love
phenomenal.
him. He's the best. He was like that, right? Like he would take guys out, like, let's do some day game shit. And then now he's like off in the forest, like finding his
Yeah.
soul, doing all the spiritual work. So it's like the red pill collective took the same cycle that I see the overall human. I sound so crazy, but like overall human collective, I think that's what's gonna happen.
No,
We're
no, it
not
makes sense.
integrated people. Like
Well,
so they're gonna
I
oh
love the fact that you're saying things that I've said. Like I love like the fact that we have conversations and it's literally it's just like there's like a 6 week on either side. Like there's some shit that you're saying that I'm gonna come in like 6 weeks later and be like, look at what I just discovered on my whiteboard. And then there's something you're saying that I've and like a year or two ago, I was like, yeah, this is like so my
what'd you find
observation
me?
is that with technology,
Okay, go.
so my observation is that with technology, there was so Maslow's hierarchy. So the reformed
Oh
perfect
yeah.
version that has been perfected is now official. That you can find on my Twitter. It is the baseline is like the physiological, right? It's not dying and then getting your basic needs met. And with technology, what happened is that society and culture at large solved for the first two problems mostly, right? Like that we have welfare, we have such an infrastructure that if you want to have a job, you can find a job somewhere. You can feed yourself. You can, share an apartment with friends. Like if you're in a particularly like expensive place or whatever, those are taken care of. But it came at the price of the social and the mental, where somehow we made it so that you know Wikipedia, all we've taken all of our simplistic knowledge, put it on Wikipedia, you know, even to the point where prostitution has turned into e-commerce with
No.
OnlyFans, right? Like all of it has made it on the internet, right? I love that. I love that frame. I love that frame. Yeah, it's e-commerce now. It's e-commerce for the
Like,
pootie
think
tang.
about tribes used to go around and be like, "Oh, I need some help. Let me go to this other village with the fucking person who does this." And, "Oh, let me, like, yeah, go have some sex." Like, even, like, when it even in, like, concepts like in Amsterdam, like red light district, like, you still have to walk in reality, go down this alley, like, window shop this,
Mhm.
like, straight up prostitute, like, from the whatever. Everything is interacting with robots now. And, like, my
Right.
technological disgust is because I love humans, like, I'm obsessed with humans, and it's not so everybody tries to,
Mhm.
like, make these logical arguments with me, fucking logic and emotion. "Oh, but it'll help this scale, it'll make this easier, it'll make this cost blah, blah," and I'm like, "I get it." It feels soulless, and it's continuing to grow, and there's all these movies and signs
Well,
and texts and books and previous knowledge, like, warning us, "Yo, don't go in that direction," but we're also like, we want the easy way so much that it's like,
yeah.
"Okay, full speed in the wrong direction, bye."
Well, no, it's like it's so annoying that so I looked up and the term Luddite doesn't mean what I used to think it means because I used to think it
Luddite?
means like people who are just naturally aversive to yeah Luddite people. So the mistranslation that I had was people who are against advancing technology because when you take away when you add technology, people lose certain skills that are important.
I think
If that's completely like going past you,
no, I agree, right? Like, that's what all I see. That's the part I fixate on, and I was trying to get to see your side. That's why I paused.
yeah,
Um the part I fixate on
okay,
is that it's like all these parts of you that lie dormant and have more of a reason to lie dormant because technology is handling it all. Now, all of those sleeping parts in you are never
right.
developed,
Well,
actualized, they never explore, they never go on their own journey, they never sophisticate. So that's inherently shitty for humans. Now, do I think that there's a diminishing return point implied with that? Yes, because on some level, in some perfect zone for you, tools really do elevate your life in a way that you should absolutely take advantage. Just like the internet. Like, I remember Alexander, I think it was Alexander Cortez posted on Twitter one day and it was like Plato criticized paper when it was invented. And I remember that stayed with me because I was in the middle of bitching about AI. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is like the internet, and I'm just one of those suckers that's like bashing this new thing.
that's a
But
yeah, that's a
also
hell of a
they
reframe.
but also they weren't completely wrong, right? So then I'm like, "Oh, nuance, duality again."
Right. Well,
But I
so here's so the one half of like what we gained, yeah, well, because like what we gained is like basic knowledge, like oh here's a blueprint for for a jet engine, like that here's how to do coding and stuff. All that's all online now. But what got lost in exchange for that was ancient generational knowledge, right? Because like up until 5 minutes ago, people largely existed in multi generational homes, or at least stayed local, right? So if you had a family, your mom was like 5 minutes away or in the same house. And so it's not just that you're getting, so when you're trying to raise your kid, you're not just getting her knowledge because when she was raising you, right, she had her grandma. And then when her grandma was raising her, she had, her mom. And then like up and up all the way through. So it's actually like 1,000 years worth of refined purified knowledge that is now getting translated to you because you have your mom there who's passing all that information to you, and she's either 5 minutes away or she's in the same house while you're trying to raise your child.
and the implication
And
there
then
that I see
mass
though
transportation becomes a
but yeah,
thing.
but then, like, then I think of chat robots like Chat GPT, right? Like, think of that woman that you just spoke about, that hypothetical one.
Mhm.
Instead of going to her mom, going to her sister, going to another woman in the village to, like, get these logical answers, oh my god, this sister goes all the way back to the fucking breakup thing. If humans form a habit of getting all of their needs met by going and interfacing with all these digital solutions versus going around and interfacing with humans, then okay, it's like the woman telling you, I just wanted some fucking lemons. Why do I still feel so alone? Why do I still feel lack of support? I have the answer. And now everyone's running all over the internet. Oh, information is abundant. Nobody can sell all the offers that are trying to sell based on like, oh, we have the information. Like, good luck. Like It's the human element now. Like, I really do think the new frontier, because even though I don't like the direction that all the tech stuff is taking it in, for those reasons, right? Like all those tribal ancient reasons, which are now being outsourced to the tech. I also think that that's the reason. Fucking duality again. Like, I think that
Well,
it's
what I'm saying is like,
great.
yeah. Well, what I'm even suggesting is that that knowledge is actually has been lost for many people and has to be reformed. Like the whole point of the whole pickup era in the 90s and the early 2000s was that you had families that were so broken, either because of divorce or because, the parents decided to move all the way over to the other side of the country to pursue a job or whatever, that there was that generational information, that whole line just got broken in two, right? And so instead of the kids growing up and seeing a healthy dynamic, a parental relationship where every time there's kind of any sort of big rip, the grandparents that, step in and say like, hey, this is how we solve these problems. And, the grandparents are there interacting with the kids too. So the kids are getting like a double or triple dose of like adult interaction. And so they grow up actually understanding, you know, the different dynamics of here's how you properly interact with parents. Here's how you properly interact with other adults. Here's how if you're a guy, here's how you talk to a girl. If you're a girl, here's how you can receive a guy's attention. And depending on your reaction to him, how to handle it the proper way, like all those different things. Instead, it's guy grows up, spends half his time on video games. And so like all he knows how to do is basically insult other dudes while playing Call of Duty and calling it,
Are
be
you
like, oh
teaching
man, you're
people?
so gay, blah, blah,
Are
blah.
you teaching people this stuff?
I'm still like
I'm
putting this
still
all
working on
together.
it. Oh,
Don't suggest that I
no,
this
no,
in
no, because this is very important. This is very important. Presence. You need, like, I also, in my esoteric theory of all this death and rebirth, feminine, masculine shit, I think that there's gonna be a group of people equipped
Mhm.
to almost reparent the feminine and masculine within people, right? Like, this happens in my work, and this is an understanding you have. So, and you said I talked to all these guys, I have all the, you need to, like, remember that this is bigger than you. I'm telling you this on recorded fucking YouTube. Okay, so
Hey, hey, I am publishing all of my whiteboards on
no, seriously, I'm not kidding. Like, fucking start a YouTube channel.
we'll see. I'm doing some internal work first. I'm
Uh,
doing some internal work first. So I'm gonna be working with Noah. So we're gonna work on it.
yeah,
I'm working on this part right here
cool.
myself.
Noah's
That
great.
was a terrible line draw. Thank you. I appreciate your appreciation.
And I know that actually makes me feel better about it because you're in the right hands.
Yeah.
He's
Oh my god. Yeah. No. One of the things that I love about this is because so yeah, a lot of these guys. So let's refocus a little bit. So so right now, a lot of this information like you can't find through Chat GPT. You can't find on the internet. Like one of the things that we've been doing. So the pickup stuff was like, okay, here's how you talk to the opposite sex, right? And then it turned into self improvement in the manosphere in the early 2010s. And now it's even evolved further into, men forming I think no girls are doing this too, but a lot of it is on the masculine side of men reforming male groups of and I think Noah calls it the cummerbund, something like that, or the Mannerbund, or some it's a Germanic word that I don't know. It's a group
empathy
of
is
it's
also
something like a
Germanic.
group of
You need to go
men.
read about German. Sorry.
They had some good things. They had some bad things too. It's
Yeah,
a
I heard
mixed
about
bag.
that one thing.
The one yeah, they messed up for a couple decades there. Well, we won't talk about that here.
Much about Germany. I think.
For
What does that mean?
the 1900s, we'll just leave it at that.
Close that browser tab.
But 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 at some point in the 60s, male only spaces started disappearing. Like up until the 60s, there were actually, what we would call a gentleman's club, not like strippers and
But then Jonathan is
all that kind
saying,
of stuff, but like
Jonathan is saying male groups disappeared, and he means literally.
yes,
And I want to add,
yes,
sorry to interrupt you, but I want to add that the ones that didn't literally disappear became feminized cultures.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's really important, even though
Yeah.
I don't I didn't
And
really
no,
get it then,
that's a
but
good clarification.
because what happens with
I
that,
appreciate you stepping in to correct me with your feminine energy while I'm making a masculine point. It's great.
even though I'm leaning away from promoting the feminine,
Thanks for
like,
thanks for invading my masculine space, Trina.
I'm just showing what I was talking about. No, but like, oh my gosh, I also meet women who
Like,
like have a stronger masculine, are more direct, to start in touch with the blah, blah, blah. Like it's everything's a mess. Everything's a fucking mess.
yeah. Oh, we can actually bring that back to you. But anyways, the point is that we're reforming right now, in pockets of culture. We're reforming all the ancient we're rebuilding the underlying structure that allowed us to have a functioning society where men were like, where men were masculine and women were feminine, where you actually had all the support structures that people had up until not even 100 years ago, right? Where as a guy, you have a group of healthy men who can give you advice on all the different aspects of being a man, where and as a woman that you can have a group of healthy women, not angry single moms on Facebook groups who are sitting there like saying, "Oh yeah, your man ain't shit. You should divorce him," and all that stuff.
Oh
But
my
like
god.
actual healthy feminine feedback where it's like, "No, I love my guy. Here's something that we did that fixed up our problem. Maybe it'll work for you," or like that kind of thing. So
It's interesting because that's what my experience has
yeah.
also been. It's like masculine version of self-development is much more productive for the masculine, obviously. That was such but my point is
Mhm.
the feminine version of that is, oh, it's okay. You're loved no matter what, you're inherently worthy, blah, blah. And when I point to the fact that male organizations, cultures, groups, ideologies end up just like the red pill that like think of the most toxic version of the red pill male group. They all began
Mhm.
circle jerking their ideas and saying, "Oh yeah, like you're definitely inherently valued. You don't have to do anything." Blah blah. That's feminized, right? Whereas in the opposite, like if there's a woman saying, "Listen, we need to fix this or go two different ways." That's a woman asking the masculine. But like when a productive problem to solution um atmosphere is supposed to be happening, like and the masculine energy is feminized, everything breaks down. So it's not
Yeah.
just about being a man.
Yeah. Well,
Like it's really the energetic type. And you're only gonna heal the feminine
I think so. I think
when
I
that happens.
yeah. Well, and also I've actually had a very interesting reaction the last time someone told me like, "Oh, you're fine just the way you are," because it was during a conversation where the criticism was that I was like investing too heavily into self improvement, and the feedback that I got from a female was, "You're fine just the way you are." That is not anything that any man wants to hear. Like like on the feminine, it sounds supportive, and for a girl like that, that can be a really great sense of support of like, listen, you need to stop being so anxious about yourself and constantly criticizing. Like, you're doing great, honey. Like your big problem is that you're completely getting out of touch with who you are, and like you need to just relax. First step, right? On the masculine side, what you're fine just the way you are. What that comes across as is, yeah, that part where, like, you kinda wanna, like, keep growing and getting better and better and better, and, you kinda wanna conquer the world and make a name for yourself and have a legacy. You can't do that because you suck, so you might as well just go die. So, just so you know, that's what like, much better, like, if you wanna support is like, "I see all the work that you're doing, and it's really increased my respect for you.
See, that's the
I
complete
really enjoy
inverse
spend
we were talking earlier. Like he's expressing emotion and he wants solution. Whereas the woman in the very first breakup example expressing emotions and that's not the real service level solution she wants as a response. She wants emotion. It's that still that dynamic there. Um fuck, I had another pause. But like It's funny because that reminded me of you just said that you've had a conversation where the woman was like, "Oh, you don't have to change anything. That's not what you wanted to hear." I had a kind of an inverse reminiscent conversation with one of my best girlfriends. I used to work with her now husband, and I was in their wedding, and we were like we're just boys at the hospitality joint, like we worked at, right? Like we would like serve tables together, bartend together, like shoot the shit,
Mhm.
whatever. And then I met this girl that lived down the street, like became really tight with her, whatever. And we're really close. And we went on a trip and we sat on the back of the boat with beer. And she was like, I need to talk to you, whatever. And she's like, the only other person I've had this conversation with, this is gonna be very revealing for me too. The only other person I've
All
had
right,
this conversation with,
let's go.
her
I'm giving you
husband,
my full attention.
her husband. And I was like, huh, uh-oh. And she's like, you know, she say, she's like, I know that you don't judge me. I think that was the first sentence she said. Like, I know you don't judge me. I I love what you do. Like, whenever I have a problem, like I just call you and like you make me feel better and blah blah. And like I love that your wills, I like all these different things. And I'm like, okay, what's the kicker here? And it was so simple with all this like build up. It was, but sometimes when I tell you about things, I don't want solutions. And I was like, and I remember being like, what? And it's so ironic because now I've talked to all these men, and that's a very common conversation, right? And it's literally the breakup conversation. It's okay, I'm gonna give you the fucking lemons, but I'm a woman. So you can see how profound this was, right? Like, and I just started crying and she started crying. And I'm like, oh my God, so I'm asking questions about how I can like meet her in those moments better. And she's trying to take care of my feelings of guilt and shame, and it's just a mess, and we're crying. And I'm like trying to get the solution. And she's trying to be like, "No, no, but you're such a great friend. Please don't feel like you're not a great friend. You're such a great sounding board." But I had made her feel unseen, even though I was saying all the right things, because I wasn't just letting her like have space for me. And then I was like, and then I of course left that trip, and I'm like reflecting on the trip. I'm like, wow, that's so fun. Like I love my friends. I need to move to Mediterranean. Like blah blah. And I'm like, damn, wait, do I do that? And of course, a whole fucking self development chapter happens there. But, like, that's it, right? Like, that's also what you
Mhm.
were talking about is you wanted to be responded to with solution. It's complete inverse. But she's just gonna respond, "No,
Yeah,
you don't care," because that's what the woman wants to do. She wants to help you feel better.
right.
For
Well,
the permanent.
I happen to have I happen to have a whiteboard here, and one of well, okay, so here's something cool. So it's not necessarily the validation, but part of it is like that idea of like, I just want you to, I just want you to hear me out. I don't want a solution. Is because in that moment, she's actually trying to work on her presence. Like she's actually trying to work on a lot of times when it's, oh, I don't want a solution. I just want you to hear me. It's, I want to feel seen and heard, but also it's like, I, I just need a moment to figure out what I'm feeling in the first place, because a lot of times you have to sit there and just talk it out, and sit there and kind of run through the emotions and figure out what you're feeling, what your needs are. And then one of the cool things is that if she's using you as a sounding board of like, let me just kind of figure out what my needs are. If she can even walk away from that conversation feeling seen and heard and feeling like, okay, now I know what my needs are, then she can go and communicate it to her husband. And if she can come up to her husband and say, hey, just, these are my needs right now, that puts him in a position of power to say, all right, now we're going to make a plan. Now I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah, I talked to him.
Right. And then because he's
Women
taking
dominate.
action. Mhm. Hey, happily ever after, hopefully.
They were dating. They were a couple that met when she was, like, in middle school or high school, and he was, like, 4 years older than her, and everybody was really pissed that she's dating, like, the senior or the older guy, whatever, and then they moved in together, and they lived together for, like, 15 years, and all the family's like, "Why the fuck haven't you got married yet? Blah, blah, blah."
Oh,
And they're great. They're great. They're a great couple. I love them. Um,
yeah,
but it's, like, things like that, right? And, like, people don't have good resources for it. I'm gonna get all of my feelings.
that is
Yeah.
lovely. Oh, what okay, what was there hold on. I need to check because I know there were, like, I also wrote down on a whiteboard like the topics that we talked
Should
about.
we
Is there
spar
like a
with one
train or
more before we end this whole ridiculous episode? That because then I gotta jet. But yeah, I want another
oh,
catalyst point from
which
you.
really quick, one of the things real quick, one of the things I love about doing all this work is seeing the way that like all the different influences are converging. So there's an
What do
ancient,
you mean?
I don't know, Hindu, whatever. There's a an old story of like three blind men come across an elephant and they each, because they're blind, they feel the different parts of the elephant and they try to describe it to each other. And so one blind man says, "Oh, an elephant is like a rope. It's long and thin, you know." And then another part, another blind man feels another part of the elephant and says, "Oh no, an elephant is like a snake. It's strong and flexible and moves around." Right. And then the third blind man feels another part of the elephant and says, "No, no, the elephant is thick and broad. It's like a tree." Right. Because they were touching the tail and the trunk and the leg. And one of the things I've been really happy with this thing here is I'm getting a view of the elephant where the red pill is like I'm getting kind of figuring that one out and how that relates. And the stuff with the presence and appreciation and integrity from the Authentic Man program and the work with Nella and some of the stuff that Adam Lane Smith is doing and some of the stuff that you're doing. And like just all the different influences are coming together and converging in this sort of like unified field theory of masculinity and femininity, where I can look at this and say, I'm seeing this picture and I don't feel bitter about it. Like I actually feel good,
That's so fucking dope.
which is nice because like,
No, I mean oh, that's like
but yeah, because
capital T truth. Like you have this like uh whatever shape it is forming around you, and like all of it is mirroring and contributing different pieces that you have and that are bouncing, and there's a lot of reciprocity going on, and it feels right. The fact that that's happening for you is fucking
Mhm. Oh yeah, it's fully resonant, which I love because most of the time, like I would like look at the pickup stuff and be like, some of it's right, but some of it's I don't know what it is, but there's something that's off about it, right? And the red pill stuff, I'd look at it and be like, some of it's right, but something's off about it. And there's so many fucking bitter dudes in there. Like this feels like I can't deny some of the truth, but also some of it's like clearly toxic, right? And then one of the other people like, okay, some of this feels right, but it doesn't feel strong. It feels weak. I'm missing something, right? And that was the thing that was like the Authentic Man
deleterious stuff.
program, like the presence and the appreciation, the presence and appreciation stuff made sense, but they put the presence as the foundation. For man, it can't be. Their work on integrity should have been first. Because if you're a man and you have learned helplessness, like you're just completely disempowered, then this stuff doesn't work. This stuff doesn't work because if you have presence only, then you become that one night lover, right? Where like you might have a fantastic, like you meet a guy, really fantastic conversation, and then like, but the next morning is like there's nothing of substance. There's nothing there, right? The guy who learns only appreciation can make you feel amazing and seen, but he becomes that gay best friend, right? Like he understands you, but it inspires nothing out of you. And you sit there being like, you're so great. I feel like my needs are met with you, but I have no interest whatsoever. It's like frustrating for the girl because all the guys she's dating,
Nice
maybe
triggered.
it,
Yeah.
tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Gratitude. No. Exactly. And that's
So
what is the
so
majority
he
of
has
life?
to
That's what they're like. Guess what?
yeah, and it's like so these girls are sitting there going like, "Oh, these incels." It's like it's not like yeah, there's that disgust because like, a guy who has no backbone, who has no capacity to assert himself, like the reaction is like, what use is there to you? But it's like, it's a disappointment. It's a disappointment. What? No girl sitting there going like, you know what I really need in my life? More weak men. I could just,
But
would love it if guys had no spine.
never.
It's like never.
But I talked. Some of them are just like right there though. Like it's like they're really not an incel, and a lot of them are. But I talked to many of them, right? And like this action stunted masculine thing, they're never going to hear. Not okay. I hate saying never. I'm very like hopeful ass motherfucker. But like the odds of them hearing from the feminine, whatever the feminine is in their life, right? Like, I don't know why I'm doing that. Like a mother, this woman you're dating, like the wife, whatever the feminine voice is in your like bottleneck, in your spiritual bottleneck, she's never going to tell you boom, 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 boom. And because we have these conversations about like what we're talking about, they hear it for the first time in a real way, right? With no sexual tension, with somebody they like, things or people they care about in this other realm that they're not like showing up as the man they should be and not asserting and being an incel and all these things. And it's like, oh shit. Because you can read about it online all the fuck you want. You either are gonna be like, oh, that's kind of doesn't resonate because of this, or girl doesn't know what she's talking about, or this guy doesn't have a life I want to live, or all these different things. And there's so many different like thought catalysts in the digital world that until you actually get rooted in a conversational dynamic with somebody, like, that you're gonna like, you've probably already experienced this having multiple conversations with Noah, like the way those beliefs, so that word is getting so the way these ideas and thoughts and stuff like exist in your brain, they don't get filtered. They don't get shifted by you just reading this random truth on the screen. You have no discernment
Mhm.
until you go through some sort of process with whatever that truth is. In this example is like the feminine voice, right? Like, what does she really want? What is actually happening here? Because nobody is guiding you correctly. And she just wants you to feel better.
Yeah.
She wants
Oh no, and it's really, oh yeah, and it's so hard, especially on the guy side too, because like if you're a guy like and you can't even get like a simple relationship with a girl, like forget like, oh, I'm gonna go to the club and pick up these hoes and all that. Forget that. You can't even like talk to a girl and like, after you talk to like 10, maybe one of them expresses some interest and like you can vibe and see what happens. If you're not even there, these guys like you end up in a contradiction, right? And the contradiction is, okay, don't pedestalize women. You need to have your own boundaries and you need to have a spine. You need to have all these things. Also, the only measure that you have for knowing if you're in the right direction is if women are responding to you. So you're supposed to be independent of the woman's response, but also this is your measuring stick too. Right. And so unless you actually have someone another man that you can say, all right, I need to understand how to even view women in the first place, and what my own personal boundaries are, and I need to know the pathway to have a conversation with a girl where it's not a question of, oh, what magic words can I say, what body language can I use to make her attracted to me. The proper approach is like, okay, I'm just gonna go out and meet people and see if there's a potential where we might set up a relationship that's really really enjoyable, whether that be friendship or a fling or a relationship. If you can't get that handled, then the question of a guy being actually present is completely gone.
so
How's a
how
guy
does
going to
the
be present
man
if he can't do these other things?
if you're teaching a man this, how do you get him to interplay with a feminine energy in that way? Like, is there, because at that point, there's a lot of resistance, right? And there needs to be a change. You can't do any inner
Mhm.
work without interfacing with the external axiom. So then when you're like the
Yeah.
man have to lead the men. So then how does the men get the men to not look at it binary as if, oh, I'm not going out to the club every weekend, so that's why I don't have a girlfriend. I need to actually go get some experience just being able. You just said it's important to just be able to talk to a woman, playful, create that playful space
Right.
dynamic,
That's like 101.
and see them as a human, right? Because people get stuck in these extremes of like club, sex, lust, and isolation, safety, whatever. And of course, it's neither of those things that they want. So what then? How does that transfer to them carrying it out in the real world?
Tune in next week for the next podcast with
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting
no,
question.
that's a good so that's a hard one. That's a hard one. That was actually something I was contemplating before you asked the question, was like me wondering in the back of my mind, like, is there an order to this that you would go? Because these are four broad skills, right? Like having your own personal sense of power and feeling comfortable with going out and asserting yourself, being able to tell people no, being able to see the other person, and which, by the way, appreciation is as much a knowledge issue as it is a skill, right? Because if you
Yeah.
don't, here's a terrible analogy. It's like if you go outside and you look at a tree and you watch that tree for your entire childhood, and you watch it grow, and it goes starts out as a sapling, turns into a 30-year-old like big old oak tree, and then an arborist who is a tree specialist walks up and looks at the same tree. Who sees more of the tree? It's going to be the arborist, right? Because the arborist can look at that tree and go, okay, that's an oak tree. An arborist is it's someone who specializes.
Appreciation.
It's someone
Oh
who
my
specializes
god.
in tree. It's someone. Okay, a
Like,
tree
appreciation is
specialist.
handicap my knowledge, and
A
then he goes
tree
to Herbert, I'm
specialist.
like, fuck, I can't appreciate what he's saying 'cause I don't know what's up.
It's so
Tree
it's
specialist.
and if it
Okay,
turns out that
cool.
I got the term wrong, I'm gonna kick myself. A tree specialist, right? So like you look at the tree and be like, yeah, it's been there for 30 years and like it has brown bark and the like. But the arborist can look at that tree and go, okay, so it looks like it's a 30-year-old oak tree. It looks like it had a mold infestation on this side. It fought parasites over here. Like he can see there and he sees the tree more than you see the tree.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like because he has the knowledge base, he can appreciate the tree more than you can, even though you saw the tree for your entire childhood. So a part of appreciation is having that knowledge, and that's where having, a proper foundation of, you know, here's how men or women are different. Here's what the man's needs are. Here's what the woman's needs are. Here's how you can take care of those needs.
That's what I think the
When you
catalyst
build a
is.
relationship with someone,
So the implication is that the
like
aim of this
in
this
terms of getting
of
them over that hump.
right. The vision, like the actual way of life vision, you go through these conversations, you instill these different ways of looking at things over time. Over time, you form a new, in my experience.
Mhm.
I can only speak. I hate when everyone's like,
Yes.
I think, I believe. In my experience, somebody was just asking, like, yes, all of us are speaking from our experience, but feel like I have to just, um, then over time, you form a new lens. And now, when you have the opportunity to interface with whatever the energy is, whatever the thing is, whatever business, relationships, woman, talk to a woman, you see it differently. You respond to it differently. And in that instance, things boil up, right? So my question was, how do you get the man to interface with the woman after you're talking to these men about things? Because in my experience, like elephant in the middle of the room, there
Mhm.
is some very human transference that happens. Whereas, like, you know, in the red pill perspective, I shouldn't be helping men, and I've helped, right? And I've been trying to justify why that works. There's various reasons. There's business knowledge, there's network, blah, 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 all this stupid reasons. One of them that stands out to me that ties into this conversation is the transference of experience fucking talking to a woman like a human. All of your shit boils up. It's not as big of a liability, but it's still a
Mhm.
liability. And it's like, what was that?
That's actually a really good point. That's actually a really good point. Just like being able to talk to a female in an explicitly non-sexual context, where where the framework is set up as like this is completely off the table. We're not even gonna have that question. This is strictly a human to human conversation, but you're gonna see how a female interacts and how you can interact with her and how your energies intertangle. And you can see how she responds to you, how she responds to your energy. You can see how she responds differently when you're being really, really assertive compared to a man versus how when you're being really, really passive, right? And you can watch, her face and how she emotionally and viscerally reacts. You can see how her anxiety can spike or how she can relax depending on how certain you are and how much she feels like you're actually genuinely paying attention to her versus how much you're hiding yourself and creating that creepy energy, which the creepy energy, as far as I'm concerned, is two things. It's one, if you're hiding a part of yourself, right? Where it's oh yeah, I really want to bang her, but I'm gonna pretend like I don't. You don't even have to say it. Like you can just be honest about it, like be in your mind, like that she looked, whatever. But also, I'm not going to pursue it because whatever reasons, and be totally okay with that within yourself, and just like, all right, now we're just going to talk. I'm going to enjoy you. We're gonna be here, and that's totally okay. Like that is far less creepy than lying to yourself about it. And the alternative, the other cause of the creepiness is when he doesn't know how, like he has no pathways to adequately communicate in the first place,
He had really
right?
touched
And
with his
that's where
well, he is in touch with
a
his
whole
life.
bunch of
So he can only think of everything as
yeah,
hypersexualized or incel. And it infects how they behave. It affects how they speak. It affects how they
yeah,
navigate things. But really, for me, it's the vibe. And for all women, it's the vibe. Like, it really is the fucking vibe.
it's
I'm sorry. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's so
yeah.
true.
Well, it's
I hate the word
no, no,
creepy.
it's the
The word creepy is a weapon.
I do too because it
The
gets
word creepy
misused.
is
Yeah,
weaponized by
yeah.
women right now. And a lot of really good men, like, fear that word secretly. And, like, it's fucking unfair. I've even tweeted about this. What is the
Yeah.
I was like,
Well,
I feel like we defiled the word creepy because it doesn't mean that like oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, like you feel violated, right? Like you're a woman, you feel violated, but now you get to weaponize that word without any boundaries having been crossed. If a man approaches you and you're like creepy just because you're not interested, you're giving negative feedback to life, right? To the masculine energy who assert, right? Just because you weren't interested.
yeah.
And this is
Well, that's
yeah, appreciation. Fucking
yeah. No, and that's where you get like the girls posting TikToks of like I was working out and one dude looked in my direction for a third of a second because I'm being weird in the gym and have like three cameras set up
poor
plus a
men.
a
They're like in
circle
the
ring
gym
light and
pumping
all this.
testosterone and their asses are out and like and if they have to be like on guard like now because all these TikTokers so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, yeah. Right, and especially, like, the girls who have, like, the skin colored what's it called? Skin color, nude? The nude colored
Yeah.
pants, and I'm sitting here like, it looks like your junk is hanging out, like,
Looks like you have no pants on.
"Oh, it's so creepy for looking." It's like, "No, you stuck your ass out. I'm a man. I see tits, I am attracted to tits, I look at the tits." That's
We're also
how
offended
that
if you
one
don't look.
goes.
We're also offended if you don't look. So
Right, right, it's like, "They're here, hello, look, I didn't wear this top for no reason."
no.
Mhm. So, absolutely, yeah, and then they turn around like, "Guys don't approach me anymore, I don't get it. Why are guys so hesitant? They don't wanna talk to me."
Issue is deeper.
Couldn't
Of
I couldn't
course.
tell you why.
Oh
Right, oh,
man.
yeah, like, you did it's like, maybe don't disempower men. Like, I understand there's some guys who are really bad at taking rejection, and that is a serious problem, which is the guys who have really unregulated emotions,
I mean, that's
and
what the
that's a
ego
whole
work
whole
happens with,
problem in and
right?
of itself.
Like, or we'll have conversations and they'll realize that they aren't responding the way that aligns with what they want, right? Oh, if every man who approaches me is getting like insulted, that and I'm like out here complaining to you about, oh, I want to meet a good man. Does a good man approach you? Yeah. Well, why are they all disqualified? Like, you know what I mean? And like the
Right.
feminine's response is what the masculine needs to heal. Like, needs to use to heal too. So it's I don't think it can just be that's my point, is this is all the integration thing, like, it can't just be the masculine healing anymore. I think we've evolved. We've I think that phase is expiring, and I'm so glad this is recorded. Um, because if the woman is not on board to do the work anymore, in a masculine self-development way, like where like which happens with when I talk to them, like I call them the fuck out. I've fired like it's has to happen. Because if you don't have that, you cannot respond to the masculine who is over here also not asserting because of your response. Like the whole you can't leave any of it out anymore. They can't be isolated. That's what my point is. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, that's such a rough one too, because like the feminine responds to the masculine assertion, but also the masculine backs off when the feminine asserts itself, right? So like in a relationship, if you're a girl and you set a boundary, the guy is going to respect it or he becomes an asshole. Right. So these girls are setting these boundaries of like, don't approach me. And the guys are respecting it. There's no one there. A lot of these girls don't have any masculine figure that they respect who can tell them like, listen, you're being out of pocket. Like that guy was just trying to be nice. You were completely rude. And now you're complaining to me about how you're single. I,
But I don't
I,
know, but
I
I
don't,
mean,
I don't want to
some of
hear it
my
anymore.
guy friends have pulled that on me. Um, no, yeah. I mean, I this is the part of why I think that you need to I'm so glad you're working with Noah, and you should definitely, like, make one of your I'm gonna give you unsolicited input. Like a boss bitch. I think you should make one of your intentions to teach men. I'm saying my whole overarching point as we reach this second hour is I think the new leaders are integrated. I think that you seem like one of them, and I know you're on your own journey, and I also get, like, this imposter syndrome that boils up when I'm not operating perfectly and I'm helping people, but, like, this is what I think the future looks like. Like, this is real, like, you have to be integrated to lead people because you only have one side of it. The other side, how did the fuck do you deal with the other side? You need both.
Mhm.
I didn't even make a point there.
Well, yeah, it's all right. I appreciate you. So
That was very feminine of you.
no, I, I love, I love, just take the compliment. There, I'll be masking about it. Take the compliment. No, I do. Well, because in order to there's an element of God, I'm not gonna get down that rabbit hole. Don't introduce rabbit holes. We got
Yeah,
like
no more rabbit
15, we
holes,
got
dude.
10 minutes left.
I wonder if anyone's gonna be able to follow this.
But no, there are certain areas. I think so. I think so. But no, like the overall point that I would say is like if you're a guy, you can break it down into those four different skill sets and say, where am I lacking? And I think the biggest part where the biggest number of men are lacking is that they have learned helplessness and they don't understand boundaries either on their own behavior or on the boundaries that they ought to have on how other people treat them. So that's where you see a lot of guys putting up with nonsense from girls that they put up with on the premise of maybe I'll figure out how to address it later instead of knowing how to deal with it in the moment.
It
Like,
boils down to
hey, you
discernment.
you did this thing.
It boils down to
I'm not cool
discernment
with it.
too, because it's also a liability for them to be like boundary when you need to be holding space or facilitating chaotic, creative, feminine energy. Right? Like you can't just
Yeah.
be
Well, then,
boundary. You also need to be what we talked about at the beginning and like understand that there's something deeper happening here, which is an emotional feminine element.
right. Well, and that's where you also have to set up ideally from the beginning proper communication in the first place. And I think the guys were and by the way, here's something fun. So for men, the main bonding chemical for men is vasopressin
Hmm.
compared to oxytocin for women.
Oxytocin.
So vasopressin, yes. So if you look up Adam Lane Smith's stuff, he talks a little bit about vasopressin and oxytocin.
Is he the acne
Vasopressin
guy?
gets released either during times. Yes,
His stuff is so good.
yes, it is
Listen,
really nice. I'm only gonna say that. But the vasopressin gets released during times of suffering or when working together to accomplish a goal. When the goal gets accomplished, it gets released. And so what's really interesting is that kind of the stereotypical beginning relationship, like when both people are kind of like new to relationships, kind of what ends up happening is like is like the, the 6 hour long phone calls and the long conversations. And then typically on the girl side, if she's evaluating it seriously for a relationship, one of the tendencies that we've kind of labeled as toxic these days is her making him wait for sex. Right. So the toxic version is girl is like, has a whole bunch of bodies, bunch of one night stands, but finds the one guy that she's interested in. Oh, I'm going to make him wait for like 3 months, which that's a whole other thing. We'll put that to the side.
Oh, that was a
But
big like
maybe
to
like
go
they're
to a
just kind of
rabbit
both.
hole. That's a big rabbit hole.
We can go deep into that one. But here's I will
Like
tell you
angry.
the emotional reason behind it. The
Okay.
emotion because there is actually a legitimate emotional reason behind it, which is so for some like the guy is really
Can
keen to
you
like get
manipulate?
into her mind and understand her. Right. No, so on her end, it's like he's getting her to emotionally invest. And so she's getting that oxytocin and she is feeling bonded to him. For her, she's setting up not sex as a reward, but setting up something for them to go through together in order to get to the sex. Right. So it actually ends up being bonding in a sense for him because he had to work for something. And so when he finally gets that endpoint, vasopressin gets released and now he feels more bonded.
Mm.
Right? It doesn't make the sex any worse or better. There's no relationship that I can think of where 5 years down the road the guy goes, "Man, I'm so glad that she made me wait like 3 months because the sex now is way better because she made me wait." That's not how it works. It's because there was that waiting period and he was working towards something. He gets bonded to her because of him working through like building this relationship intentionally with her. Right? So which again, if you're sitting there and you're banging a whole bunch of random dudes and then you're going to try to make your guy wait, there will be repercussions for that. We'll cover
I'm
this,
sorry, but energy is
like
real.
like right. Well, it's like you've put yourself in a position where you have to lie to him. I want to feel seen and heard, and I want him to know me. He can't. He now can't know you.
You're dragging him
Like
around
that's the
by his
danger of
primal incentive. You're literally dragging him around by his primal incentive.
yeah.
And it's a way to feel powerful and protect yourself and maybe cope for something. But like the, and this is a really like, we're going to get canceled for even saying this, but like, so many rabbit holes. The discernment there, right? Like this is not implying that a woman who doesn't put out on the first date is a manipulative, bad woman, like using sex as a tool. But there is something to be said about someone who is like subconsciously identified that this is it's almost like a fucking dog treat, right? Like you're like whatever, and that this can be used as leverage in somebody else's decision making who should be exercising their own agency to correct the dynamic.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's there's such a perverse set of incentives that come out right now. And like in the red pill, the phrasing now is, sex first, relationship maybe. And my observation is that part of the reason why that is the people who say that are people who target that's such a loaded word, a certain demographic of women who who their emotional self-awareness and presence is either completely gone or it's cloudy, it's fogged, right? So someone who is willing to engage that casual sex because her sexual and physical vulnerability has been separated from her emotional vulnerability. And so when you're a guy and the energy that you're resonating at is the type that attracts that group of women, the level of discernment that happens on the guy side is like, okay, well, we can have sex. My willingness to engage in a relationship with you is going to be determined on how damaged you are.
It's not authentic and it
And the
becomes not
damage is going
only
to
a
be,
self-fulfilling
and it's,
prophecy, but they infect everybody else with this archetype ghost, all right? Like it's safe to say that was a ghost of some sort of
yeah.
feminine figure or like formed from experiences or she really existed or both. And then that voice in the red pill is responding to, describing and addressing, attacking almost that
Well,
woman. But he's also like giving her power.
you're also talking about guys. it's rough because like you're talking about guys who are not necessarily fully psychologically healthy in the first place, because in order to engage into that um that kind of casual sex, like as a guy, well, like I think we can both agree because I've eaten the forbidden fruit. I've dabbled on both sides, and my experience is that casual sex is completely different from sex in a relationship where the two of you are like actually connected and vulnerable with with one another, which we can get into the question of like what masculine vulnerability looks like. That's a different conversation. But like they're two different animals. One is like exercise. The other one is like it's like you're fucking with your heart. It's
One is
like
just masturbation
like
with another body.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry to
Like
be vulgar.
yeah, and then there is like a level of ego. There is there is I know. There is ego validation. There is like validation of your own attractiveness. Like it does feel good. It is emotionally intense. So and for guys it does scratch that itch. So like you're feeling not even fulfilling needs. It's like you're fulfilling the ghost of what you think that you need
Mm.
because
A hit.
in the moment she's having sex with you, which means that she respects you. Right, right. Like so like it's a proof to yourself like that she does respect you at some level because in order for the sex to happen, there has to be at least the respect, if not necessarily the trust. Because like on her end, a lot of casual sex is, alcohol influence, right? So the point of the alcohol, aside from it being sex fuel, which alcohol can be sexy, but also sex fuel translates as she can bulldoze her own feminine intuition that tells her that this is probably not a great idea and gaslight herself into going into this,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
Oh, sorry, this is a terribly dark way to
Yeah, where are we gonna go?
our casual sex is great, people.
It's an unsustainable way to get a hit of what you
God.
really deeper want. And it's not bad, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, and
I wanna end on that. Like,
because
it's not bad to
so
get
here's
hit
the other side of
thing.
it, right?
It's not bad to just get a hit thing, but it's also there's
Well,
another level to that shit where it feels that way that we're describing because is a deeper need that you ultimately primally want to seize for good, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
so that's
I'm not gonna pretend I'm spiritually pure.
purists
Like
are
I won't pretend to be pure. Like
purists have already
no, because like if I'm vibing with a girl and she's down, unless it seems to be like it's going to be something traumatic for her, like I will leave you fulfilled. We'll use each other. We'll do a really good job. We'll be fine. It's going to be great. But but there's another different kind of high, especially on the masculine end, to being really emotionally in tune with a girl, and from my perspective, really good sex is as much a conversation and a dance as it is two bodies like just doing things,
I think the
right?
best
Like there's actually a back and forth and it's very primal.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
like the
And like the
rawest
response
version of both people's feminine and masculine energy collaborating.
yeah. Well, no, for sure. Because
And it
on
will
the casual side, it's like, okay, we vibed and it's fun and it's the energy is there. Like if it's good casual sex on a relationship level sex, like where the intimacy is there, it's like the 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 high, even on the masculine side, the high from guiding a girl through like an intense emotional and sexual experience where like you get to actually like in with intent, not just like, if I keep railing her long enough she'll come, like not to get vulgar or anything, but like actually like getting her to guide her through those peaks and valleys and be with her and like connecting and like having it be intentional. There is something next level about that. Like it is really good. And
That's
It
the
is fucking
point.
delicious. Like, it is
That's the
so
point.
oh,
That's the point.
yeah.
Ugh,
Sorry, I'm getting all caught up in my feels now.
I know. That was an interesting place to maybe call it.
Like, memories.
Yeah, I have so many memories. Um, thanks for coming
This
on. There's a lot of open loops. I'm gonna watch this
this
while
was
you talking.
nice.
I'm probably gonna burst into your DMs like, "Yo, I just had this thought." Oh, so dope. I hope that anyone can people who
Yeah.
get what we're
I'm
talking
still
about, this will be a very
still
polarizing
building it out.
video. Because I'm definitely gonna share it with Pat. Like, if people who get what we're talking about will be able to follow, people who don't get what we're talking about will be so lost. Like, there's no in between here.
Well, the downside is that this is so conceptual that there is a whole segment of people who they just need the basic rules,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't understand women, but I know if I'm nice to them and I listen to what they say and whatever, then we get along well. Like, there are guys who are like that, and there are girls who are like, you know, I don't know how I'm feeling, but as long as he talks me through it, then I feel better, and then I feel receptive to him, and I
And they'll
really
be
enjoy
fine.
this time that we spend together. Like, there's
They'll
people
be
who are
fine.
right, right. It's just we got to rebuild that ground level knowledge, which is why you and I sit here like at the mountaintop, being like, "Ooh, look at these ideas. We're gonna play with these ideas and just like just see how the pieces fit together and just have like I just love like I'm so dumb. Like you will if you put a camera in my house while I was listening to your podcast, here's what it looks like. It's me with the 1 ear bit in. I listen to like 3 minutes of it, and then I'm just sitting there going like I pause it and then spend like 20 minutes in my head like having a full blown fucking conversation about all the implications that everything just happened. Going like, oh yeah, and then if like if it's casual and you're saying this and then this is in order for that to happen, the presence has to be completely cut off. And then what's the equivalent of that of man? Which, by the way, the equivalent on really quick, in order for a girl to get into casual sex, she has to cut off her emotional vulnerability. In order, the equivalent on that for a guy is a guy who is cut off entirely from his ability to assert himself.
Mm.
So it is like the incel, right? The actual incel, not the guy who's just like has had some bad luck and just doesn't get to meet women because of where he is in life. Like he has a masculine dominated job and all that kind of stuff. So that's the one half. And then there's the other half is like, okay, so what are they getting out of it? She's getting, validation and attention and kind of like that. And it's not even like really great attention. It's like it's the facsimile. Wow. I've been talking way too long. The facsimile of like something real. So on the guy's side, so the girl side of like she's doing that to get attention and to get validation. Then the guy's version of that is getting sexual access. So the other version of that is one of two things. It's either A, subscribing to OnlyFans or hiring an escort. And then on the jealousy side, like the guy is jealous of the girl getting having
Oh,
sexual access and he doesn't.
Jesse.
So if you want to play the jealousy card, if you want to play the jealousy card, and you like if you're I don't recommend this. My recommendation like is you break up, go work on yourself, right? Like upgrade at your job, get in shape, eat healthy. Like if you're a girl, like spend a whole bunch of time with your friends, spend a whole bunch of time with your family, reconnect with yourself,
Good friend.
watch some shitty Hallmark romantic movies. Like,
Good
yeah,
friend.
good friends. But if you're a guy and you want to make her feel jealous, here's what you do. Take some of your female friends and like take her on like like whatever your ex's version of romance is, take her on the most romantic version of that, right? Like take her to a nice restaurant, fucking picnic, take her to a concert, whatever. Put it all on Instagram and then type in the box, oh, we had such deep conversations. I feel like I've never seen a person so well. I really enjoyed like our energies intermeshing. And then you can do like you don't even have to know. You don't have to think about it. She saw it and she's gonna sit there and be like, she's gonna be sitting there like, I just had the most empty sex with Todd. And here he is like connecting and I wish he would have been vulnerable with me. That asshole. So those are the three different variants of the similarities between casual sex on a girl's side versus a guy. You're welcome.
What do we call this? Feminine, masculine rabbit holes. Part 1.
It's
Oh,
something. It's
man.
something.
It's
This was
so
this was
crazy.
this was so fun. I genuinely do love your energy and like the excitement because that amps me up too. Like the engagement because I feel free to kind of like say what I feel like what I want to say, but also, and I can do that with the permission of knowing that you have enough of your own sense of self that you can also like interrupt and push back so that it's like this really fun dynamic versus what sometimes happens when I'm talking with other people is because when I'm like in this element, I can get really, really assertive and really, really dominant. And it just is me bulldozing someone for like an hour. And I can see that they're getting it, but also I know that they don't have anything to say back. So like the fact that I'm getting like this intellectual engagement and like this fun energy is like
Oh, because there's so many
really, really talking with you.
level. So fun. I'm so glad you came on. I need
I was just about a hard English word.
Do you see why? It's funny because also Jonathan knows that I struggle when trying to learn skills. I can't even say it seriously. I struggle. It's ironic because I struggle with discovery. Remember when I went on, you and I were like, we were sent up to the hot seat. The only two people, and then I'm, but because the discovery's so dope. And you have to speak to people to where they're at, and
It's
they
and I
usually don't get what I'm saying. So I sound like I'm fucking nuts. So I also, I'm saying I reciprocate the appreciation. Very, very fun.
yeah. Which by the way, I 100% still have that happen with well, where I'll run discovery calls and then I hang up and immediately in the back of my mind I was like, oh my God, I should have asked him about this. I should have asked about this. I should have asked him to clarify this. Like just like 5 things I know I could have hammered in and like gotten good details on. And it's like the conversation's over. And now I gotta, see if I can schedule them again and then we can dive in deeper.
I used to go through that, but I don't anymore. Now I'm so like woo woo with it. I'm like, all right, I
Yeah.
guess we'll work together if we're supposed to work together.
Okay, so we gotta end this
It was
podcast and
like,
then I gotta tell you about Rogue, about
oh shit. Well, now okay. Sorry, Rogue. Got to get the tea. Thanks for wait, do you want to drop a handle that they can find you at and shit like that?
oh, yeah. Uh at Yay Capitalism.
Yay, not gay.
Yeah. No one has ever gotten that mistake now. And now it's forever gonna be in my mind. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So great to be casually undercut by the host right at the end. It's so
They won't forget it. They
but
won't
yeah,
forget
at
they won't forget it.
they're gonna no, all they're gonna hear is what you said, gay capitalism. They're gonna be like, I keep looking this up. All I can find is male hookers covered in dollar bills. Like I've been traumatized now.
Oh my god, I'm gonna hashtag the YouTube video again. Does that even that doesn't what is
Like it's gonna be like just giant naked men with a monocle with cash raining down.
gay capitalism is like gay OnlyFans, I guess. And no, I want to know more rabbit holes. Anyways, plug your thing. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. At Yay Capitalism. At some point I'll get my blogs up and running too. Once I kind of like get all this information properly parsed in
Jonathan,
manageable bits because right now it's just
start your
a whole
blog.
galaxy.
No, you literally are already spending so many. Oh, now I'm gonna have on the recording people reading.
Shut It's been nice talking with you and thank you for listening.
Thanks for coming on, Jonathan. Yay capitalism, not to be confused with gay capitalism. Find him on Twitter. I mean X. Oh my god, all the names. All right.